All right, stay on the offense. Let's talk tight ends. Zach Gentry came back to the Steelers over the weekend. A non-surprising signing. I was looking a couple of things here. So the 33rd team, we've been going off their rankings all offseason, had him as the dead last tight end ranked that could possibly resign. I looked at PFF. He was also the dead last worst tight end in football last year. Of all the 50, I think it was 52 tight ends or something that caught at least 10 passes or 12 passes or whatever it was. He was dead last of efficiency or whatever PFF, you know what I mean? Like PFF's rankings, you don't really know what they mean. You just know that whether they're good or bad. He was dead last. He resigns. I thought it was going to be a joyous moment. I think half the fan base was very excited and like, oh, okay, this is a position of need. This is a guy who's, on the upside of his career. He's still young. And then half the fan base was like, this guy sucks. I can't believe the Steelers aren't going to draft Darnell Washington now. What about Connor Heyward? Million questions. I have a theory, but I'm going to ask you first. Do you think the door is still open to add another tight end? Or do you think that the Steelers are comfortable with Zach Gentry, Pat Freiermuth, and Connor Heyward?
I mean, I'd be comfortable with it. I mean, I don't understand how you could not like Zach Gentry. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like he seems completely solid, like exactly what you need as a backup tight end. He's solid, he's reliable, he can catch, he can block. Like that. I don't know what those PFF numbers are getting at. I don't think this is a bad signing at all. When you look at the fact that, I don't know, yeah, maybe Darnell Washington or someone might be there in the draft, but is that worth the reach to upgrade this pretty solid tight end group, like mildly? Like, are you gonna I know Darnell Washington is good, but like that, it seems like more effort than it's worth to go after a different tight end than just sit with a solid group you have right now and upgrade other areas.
Yeah, I never thought that Darnell Washington was really on the board for the Steelers. Like, if you take a tight end at 32, what's the plan here? Like, you're running 13 personnel at all times. It is now just you have to have two tight ends on the field at every moment, or sometimes three if you're going to toss Connor Heyward out there. You just don't really need any other wide receivers except for the two that you have. It just doesn't feel like a Matt Canada styled offense or an offense that's generated to help Kenny Pickett succeed or whatever. It's definitely an offense that would boost Najee Harris, no doubt, but Pat Freiermuth can't block enough to put him out there and say, hey, sometimes you got to block and you got to hold your block. He's not going to be able to do that. I think maybe a mid-round tight end was on their mind, possibly. I still think it maybe is on their mind a little bit. My theory is this. I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Connor Heyward is listed as a tight end. They keep talking about him being a tight end, whatever. I do not remember a play where Connor Heyward lined up as the only tight end last season. Not one. He played a lot of slot. He played a lot of off ball. He played a lot of, I guess, halfback in that weird fullback off behind the tight end position. Very minimal actual tight end. And I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers, whether they want to admit it or not, or are going to go public with it or not, see a guy who's 5'10 and a half, 185 pounds as the guy that could be a long-term tight end. I think that they could make him a slot guy and he'd be just fine. My thought is that he replaces Derek Watt if Derek Watt doesn't return. Is that Connor Heyward becomes more of a fullback / halfback type situation where you can move him out to the slot. He kind of becomes like a versatile role piece, a little bit like David Johnson in years back. I know you don't know who David Johnson is, but way back in the day, Lil Noah was watching David Johnson. I owned his jersey at one point. He was a fullback / tight end / just whatever the Steelers needed this guy to be. That's who he was. I see Connor Heyward being that because then it allows the Steelers to draft another guy, see if he develops into something more than Zach Gentry, and allow you to still have three tight ends without any pressure. If you have four tight ends that are true tight ends, one of them's got to go. If Connor Heyward's more of a tweener, you could keep all three. You could feel rather fine.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I like finding a place for Connor Heyward. I don't think it's a fullback. I mean, if he's too small to be a tight end,
I think he
I
could
don't know.
block, but I think he needs a little bit of steam. Like I think he could block. I think he'd be able to block like a Miles Jack, or like an Anthony Walker who plays for the Browns, but I don't think he'd be able to block a Miles Garrett. Like
Yeah.
if you put him on the edge and TJ Watt is face to face with him, TJ Watt's going to win that battle. But if he gets a little bit of steam, I think he could block somebody. I think he'd be tough. And the Steelers don't use their fullback as a fullback anyways. Derek Watt
Yeah.
doesn't block.
So what? He's just gonna become
More like a pass catcher. Just like
just like a running back who.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't hate that. Yeah, I guess I don't hate that, but I also think putting I guess fullback would create kind of those matchups on a linebacker where Connor could use his agility or his speed to catch some passes. That's the thing. I just wouldn't want to take Connor out of the pass game because I think
No,
he
you
has a
got to line
future
him up in
there.
a slot. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I just worry about that. I'm not entirely convinced on the blocking thing. I just think I don't know. I guess I see it.
Do you see the issue being you don't think he could lead Najee through a hole, or you're just worried that it eliminates him from the slot? Because I still think that they use him in the passing game quite a bit, both out of the backfield and the way he played last year, which is like lining up, pretty much at wide receiver. But I just think that his like primary position, like what he's listed at, would be more of like a tight end. It would be if I saw it, if I could see it on the roster right now, it would just be tight end / H back.
Mm-hmm. That would make sense, and I guess I think they're gonna keep him either way.
Yeah,
Whether or not they draft another tight end, I think they will kind of see who's available and react to it. And I think that's the good thing. That's the good thing for Connor is that he can kind of be whatever they need him to right now.
yeah,
My concern is more the leading Najee through a hole, that type of thing.
yeah,
I think there is room for a Derek Watt type player, and if Connor's going to be his replacement, he's got to be both a great, slot receiver, pass catcher, spot tight end, and this blocking halfback that can also, come out of the backfield and catch passes. That I think he's a versatile player. I don't know. That seems just like a lot to put on Connor,
yeah.
and it feels like you're trusting.
It is.
It feels like you're trusting a lot into a guy that hasn't proven a whole lot. Not to say that he can't be a good player, but you're trusting a lot in a guy who hasn't proven a lot.
But he's a Heyward, so he's got the name. He's got the name. I do. I agree with that one. I think you are putting a lot on a guy's plate. I don't think there's a fullback role technically in Pittsburgh. Like I think Derek Watt did nothing. I get he was really good at those 1 yard gains, but like the Steelers would line up and you would look on Twitter, they'd be on the goal line and they'd kick a field goal and everybody'd be like, why did Derek Watt not enter the football game? Why was Najee Harris running without somebody in front of him? And that's just the Steelers just since the Rosie Nix days. I remember asking James Conner one time when Rosie Nix returned from an injury, what he thought about, like how excited he was to have Rosie, and his eyes lit up. I guarantee you, if you ask Najee right now if he'd rather a fullback, he'd be like, well, we don't use fullbacks. So I don't, Matt Canada removed the fullback from our offense, actually.
Which is crazy because he used to love his fullbacks. Like he used to love using those guys.
He used to love scoring a boatload of points, but
that's true.
He doesn't enjoy doing that. Not in the NFL, at least. I don't know.